Hello everyone, Ben here and welcome back to RaceRoom. We are awaiting the 5 red lights at the Red Bull Ring in the Formula 3 Cup cars for what promises to be a really exciting race. It's a fantastic combination of car and track. So not long now until we get underway. We've qualified reasonably well. We are in 7th position. The top 2 or 3 drivers are definitely going to fly off into the distance, but we've got some decent pace, so hopefully we can fight for a top 6 as we get underway then and start climbing up the hill into what will be a very tricky first corner here as cars go 2 and 3 wide into it. We're going to take a nice wide line and just not get anybody pinched on our inside, but a car comes swooping round our outside. They must have taken to the runoff area and they've ended up jumping us off the start. We are side by side with Farrell now on our right hand side, so we can't move to the inside to try and get that position from Liliak back, who's now up into 5th, and we're going to just hang it nice and wide and gentle through the hairpin at the top of the hill and hold on to 6th position. So we have made a spot off the grid despite the fact we were caught out by Liliak coming right the way around the outside, and to be honest with you, I had no idea he was going to appear on track in front of us like that. And I'm feeling pretty fortunate at this point that we didn't get wiped out by him rejoining the track. It looks like we've got some pace on him as well. We're closing in right the way through the middle section of this lap. We get a little bit of understeer there through the left-hander. That's going to become a bit of a feature of this race, unfortunately for us. But we get a much better exit coming out of the right-hander there, up into 5th gear as we come down to the end of the lap for the first time. Tricky double right-hander coming up here. You want to carry as much speed as you can, clip the apex on the right-hand side, try not to get too much runoff on the left, and then on the power early onto the start-finish straight. And look at that, we've got a much better exit than Liliak in 5th. We're closing in really very quickly here, and at this point I take the judgment to come to the inside and try and get to the apex of the first corner in front. We managed to do it, but there's a tiny bit of contact by the sounds of things, and then he's off in our rear view mirror. You see what could have been there, quite a big accident play out. And at this point I'm in the cockpit thinking, oh no, have I just caused a really big accident? And did I do something there which was a little bit too aggressive in the opening section of this race? We hold 5th position then at the hairpin at the top of the hill, but clearly there was a big shunt that then played out behind us. I felt like I had enough of the corner coming into T1 there to justify going for the move, but we'll take a look back at the whole of the first lap then, or certainly the kind of major incidents from it. Here's the opening corner. There's Liliak going around our outside. He takes clean to the runoff area to get the momentum onto the straight and gets around us and up into 5th place. At this point we are trailing behind Farrell, but we managed to get the draft from Liliak up ahead of us, which is going to give us enough speed into the braking zone to make sure that we can just take a nice wide line into the hairpin and keep 6th position. But we fast forward then to the start of the very next lap. Here we go then, down the inside of Liliak. We're right the way alongside and actually a nose ahead into the braking zone, and we just come together as he tries to hold the normal racing line, and yes he does. Look at that, he then collects another car as he spins. Let's take a look at it in slow motion then as we come in to the right-hander. We've got the apex and we're ahead, and he just tries to take the regular racing line. Unlike the lap before where we ran wide and into the runoff, there's the slight bit of contact wheel to wheel. We'll see it here from his on board. We're right the way alongside. I've got control of the corner, I think, at that point, but potentially a collision there was inevitable going side by side. Maybe I should have just had a bit more patience going into that corner. I'd love to hear from you in the comments as to whether you think ultimately that's a racing incident or whether I carry a little bit more of the blame there. I feel like he could have saved a collision there by recognising that I basically had the corner. But in any case, we're now having to defend quite hard from Given, who's behind us, and actually we're struggling with understeer again. He's alongside us, he's going to have the inside for the next corner. We drift out wide again, and as fast as we gained 5th position we've lost it. And it's at this point that I realise that Liliak has actually retired from the session, so I have to say I'm really regretful about that. It was definitely not my intention to see a car taken out of the race at this point, and the longer that I'm sort of thinking about this in the car, the more I'm thinking probably the best course of action would have just been to slot in behind him and then get him at the hairpin at the top of the hill, where there's perhaps just a bit of a chance of getting past the car cleanly. Just as we come round the first corner, I very nearly lose the car as I was just trying to take too much speed through the apex, but I'm just about able to hold on to it and get back on the gas and start climbing the hill for another lap at the Red Bull Ring. So, trying to put that incident out of my mind then, there's not a lot I can do about it now, and thinking instead, where are we likely to end up in this race? How can I maximise the result from the session, given we've actually made quite a solid start in terms of the standings? It looks like we've got about 2 seconds back to Sklenar in 7th place, and then Farrell's dropped down to 8th, but they're clearly in a very, very close battle, because actually there's only a couple of tenths of a second between them. Gavin looks like he's probably got the pace on us. He's already pulled out a gap of 1.1, 1.2 seconds, and I think he just had a poor start and had dropped down the field. I can't quite remember where he qualified on the grid, but I'm not really expecting to be able to challenge, so it looks like 6th place, the position we're in right now, might be the best we can hope for in this session, unless somebody else up ahead falls off the road or comes into difficulties. The leading pack are doing 126s. Let's take a look back just briefly then at the move where Gavin was able to get past us on our inside as we struggled with understeer through this left-hander coming through the corner. He's definitely got the tighter line on the inside. We're going to drift out wide, nice and respectful. He didn't squeeze me off the track or anything like that. He was able to get by and get on his way, and we had to ultimately just slot in behind him. We rejoin them with just about a third of this race left to go. We've been holding 6th place relatively comfortably, but the gap behind has been coming down and down and down. So it's gone from 2 seconds to now just 1 second. And with 6 minutes of this race left, I know I'm not safe in 6th place. And actually, if things continue the way they are, I'm going to have to try and defend it on track because the 2 cars behind are pulling each other along. And getting right towards our rear wing, and ultimately it looks as if we're going to be holding on as best as we can to 6th place towards the end of this race. We get a pretty poor journey through these final couple of corners. We've got too much curb on the start of that section and then at the end, and look in our rear view mirror, Sklenar is now just 3.5 tenths behind us. That's well within our draft. He's going to be closing right into the first corner. We take a nice apex into that. We're going to get a decent exit out, but it's not going to be enough to protect us from the car behind, who's going to be tucked right into our slipstream. He's going to be catching us all the way down the straight. We're going to take to the inside line and try and hold a defensive line into the hairpin. He's going to brake later than us though. Round the outside we make the apex, but he's broken too late, and look at that, he's going to go onto the runoff area and actually ends up losing a place because he couldn't hold the car. We left plenty of space on the outside, but unfortunately for the driver now in 8th place, Sklenar, he just couldn't hold the move round the outside, and it's ended up costing him a place to Farrell behind, who is now the driver in 7th. So there's the first sign then that this is going to be a really tough battle towards the end of this race. It looks like we've got enough margin back to Hart in 9th place, providing we don't come to grief in what is going to be a 3-way battle now for position. And look at that, Farrell's got a much better exit through that middle section of the circuit. That's where we're really struggling. He's got a nose down our inside coming towards the end of this lap, but it's just not sensible to run side by side through these corners, and he thinks better of it. In fact, he runs very wide on the middle part of that section, which is going to cost him a little bit of time. It might even damage his suspension, but he's still just 0.3 of a second behind us. So again, we're going to come under attack from behind, this time from Farrell into the hairpin at the top of the hill. You just know it. So I'm going to have to plan my moves here nice and early. Again, I'm going to try and block him off from coming down our inside. So I'm already moving to the right hand side of the track. He's tucked right underneath our rear wing, but look at this, he's going to go to the very inside of the track and he's going to force me back onto the racing line. So now we're on the outside. We try to take the corner, but he just closes us out of any room whatsoever on the outside, and he bullies us out of the corner. and we've actually lost 2 spots as a result, as Sklenar manages to squeeze through, and he's going to have a go around the outside of Farrell here into the next corner. They're running side by side. That's going to surely push the driver in 7th wide. He just about holds on to it. We sniff an opportunity to get one of those places back. We're going to show to the inside here, but we're just not confident enough of getting the car rotated to make that move, so we think better of it. But unfortunately, we've managed to lose 2 spots, not just 1 but 2 spots in that latest battle through the hairpin. I'm not too sure whether we really earned the right to some space on the outside of that corner. It felt to me like we probably did, but I can absolutely understand that, pinched so far to the apex as Farrell was. He perhaps just couldn't get the car slowed down. We'll take a proper look at it shortly, but we're thinking about getting a move straight back here on Sklenar's. We've got a decent run in his slipstream into T1. We're not going to dive down the inside. We're just not anywhere near as close as we were, for example, on Liliak on the start of lap 2, but we are going to be nice and close to him coming up the hill again into the hairpin. So this isn't over yet. We can fight for position here. We're within 0.2 of a second. We're going to try and think about getting down his inside if we can just get later on the brakes, but unfortunately we're just not late enough on the brakes to be able to make a pass there. So we have to settle in behind one more time and try and stick close again. We're very much in the slipstream though, so we're going to have another opportunity down into the braking zone, tricky braking zone downhill into the right hander here. We try and again get on the brakes later than the car up ahead, but he's very good on the brakes. There's not really much of a chance there to get alongside, certainly not without risking another bit of car-to-car contact, which I really don't want to do. So finally we do then have to just slot in behind for the time being at least, particularly as this is our weakest section of the lap here at the Red Bull Ring, and think about trying to mount another attack on the laps to come. I'm hoping we're going to be able to stick with these 2 guys at least and make it a fight towards the end of the race. We're down into the final corner of the lap, then get a reasonable trip through there, but it doesn't look like we're going to be close enough heading over the start finish line to really mount an attack either into T1 or potentially even into the hairpin. Let's take a look back at all of that action then. We're still holding 6th position here. We've got Sklenar behind us in the first instance as he's going to make the first attempt to get past us. You can see just how close behind us he is. We get to the inside. He's going to try and go around the outside on the normal racing line. He brakes later than we do. He's trying to take a wide line, but he can't get the car turned in. He's right up on the sausage curb there, sparks flying, and that costs him a position. We'll see it again from his onboard. We give him plenty of room, a car's width on the outside. He's going to get late on the brakes, but he can't get the car slowed down and turned in. He's all out of shape on the outside of the corner, and ultimately it costs him a position rather than gaining him one. We'll see it from Farrell's view then, as he's going to try and get underneath both of us. He can't do it though, and he just avoids being taken out by Sklenar, rejoining the track. Fast forward 1 lap and it's Farrell's chance to try and get down our inside, which he manages to this time. He comes right to the inside of the track and then he gets a very shallow line through and he just blocks us off around the outside. I think probably on balance, I mean it's pretty, it's pretty firm and robust, but I think it's probably fair enough. I'm not sure I can have too many complaints there. The 2 cars up ahead going side by side into the next corner as Sklenar tries to get round his outside, but he's not able to do it. We think about trying to capitalise on that, but we can't. Here's a view of the overtake from our onboard, and you'll see we just get squeezed out of room. We've still got a tyre alongside, and it's arguable, I think, as to whether we then deserve the space. Let's remember, even though Liliak went off on lap 2, he did have a car's worth of space around our outside if he wanted to take it, but he elected to try and take his usual line. When we were defending that first overtaking attempt, we left a car's width on the outside. We didn't get that benefit the second time around, so it's a little bit unfortunate, I think, but probably fair enough on balance. We've rejoined then on the very last lap of the race. We're still in 8th place. We're still just half a second behind Sklenar in 7th. So we're very much in touch with the 2 cars still up ahead, and we're trying to press for an overtaking chance. You'll see yellow flags popping up on the display. I think that was to do with the server issue. I'm not sure there was actually incidents on track there, certainly nothing that I saw. So we're just going to try and press on and make an overtake if an opportunity presents itself on the remainder of this lap. We come through the right-hander, we're very, very close behind Sklenar up ahead, just 3/10 now, as we're trying to press home what would be a last gasp overtake if we can manage it, but there's not really a corner left on the lap now that lends itself to an overtake, so it could well be that we're just going to have to come home in the order that we currently are. Hart has dropped back to 7 seconds behind us, so we've never really been under threat from behind. The leader comes across to take the race win. We're going to try and follow as close we can through the final couple of corners. It actually looks like Sklenar's got the run on Farrell here, coming up to the line. We're too far back to have any hope of getting past either of them, but it is going to be the positions as you were to finish the race. Farrell takes 6th, Sklenar in 7th, and here we are in 8th position with the full classified results. So, a very good race, a little bit more controversial than I would normally like. A little bit too much car-to-car contact than ideally I would like. Let me know in the comments what you think about those incidents. I think probably overall my view would be they're fair enough, they're probably racing incidents, but obviously in an ideal world we wouldn't be making contact with anybody at all. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, get subscribed to the channel, and I will see you next time.